Greetings, brothers and sisters. Got a bunch of stuff to get to as always. There's always something. Today I think is funnier than most days. We'll see. But I just wanted to, do this introduction in terms of like where I am with the apocalypse. I mean, it's you go through these various stages, and in terms of I don't do as many videos about symbolism. I watched a couple of movies that I wanted to get to. Some of them are new. One of them was an old movie. Hopefully, I'll get to that before I forget. But in terms of predictive programming and symbolism and change in terms of like all these things that I used to cover in videos, it seems more or less pointless to me. It's just right now I'm just waiting for the big events to unfold and see how people react to them. Because the last year or two, it isn't just about like there's so much focus from the people in the truth community about the so-called elite, what I call the controllers. But what I've been pointing out time and time again, regardless of what they do, the system's collapsing. There's no stopping it. It's just, I mean, it should be more and more obvious to people. It needs to collapse because people suck so bad. It's leading people, their system is always about what kind of people it produces or how it affects people. Does the system make people better or not? It's just that simple. Does your system bring out the best in you, the divine aspect of you, or does it bring out your lower tendencies? And in our system, it's overwhelming that it brings out people's lower tendencies. It makes people weaker, more selfish, and more entitled. And so, it has to go. It's going. It's time. And I don't know what that means. Maybe 100 years. Like, I don't know. Like in terms of it being completely gone. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But there are big events that are going to unfold. Some of them are man-made. Some of them are divine, natural occurrences. And they're all natural occurrences in the sense that human beings are also, our reactions and what we do is a part of nature and a part of the divine system. And so these events are going to unfold. And so what happens then? How are people going to react? And that's, that's the next phase. Years ago, I think in the late 90s, Master Chargy said, maybe it was the early 2000s, I'm not sure. But he said that doomsday can no longer be avoided. I don't know exactly the exact words he used, but I think he used the word doomsday, and I think it's when he came to America. And so, it was basically saying that if people change and, things go in a different way, we could have avoided doomsday. Like it was, it was one of those passing the point of no return. And you can see it now. People aren't getting better the way they're reacting now. The whole thing that's happening with, that's been happening for the past couple of years here, the whole agenda and all of it. But also just how people are, like just ordinary people and how they are, I mean, there's just always been a resistance to the higher in the human condition. It's been a big problem. Human beings usually tend to do the lower. They are, if they have a choice between the higher and the lower, almost always they choose the lower. Only when, things press them, only when things press human beings to, some kind of tragedy happens or they're in a, like a crisis type situation or, things are more desperate when they get into, when human beings get into a situation where there's an opportunity for wealth and more comforts and things. They go that way, we go that way, and then that's, that just leads a road towards forgetting about God and indulging in things, and then ultimately evil behaviors and things going against the divine order. And so, where I am with this thing, I mean, people are like, oh, we can still save it. And I mean, there's a phase people go through, usually in the beginning of being, like so-called waking up, where they think they can fix the system. And people just don't want to believe the system is going to collapse because they can't imagine themselves surviving that. They can't imagine life without the system. That's, probably 95% of people. They just can't even go there mentally to think, wow, what would I do if there was no system, right? What would I do if there was no, you know, I couldn't go to the grocery store, couldn't drive my car, couldn't watch something on TV. I mean, just all of it. Even if it's, a partial collapse of the system. People can't imagine giving up like cell phones, right? Like you live without a cell phone if you're an older person. I lived out without a cell phone for most of my life. But once you have it, it's, so convenient and it does so many things for you, right? Like, oh, I got to read a map again, like, and so people, it's, how easily people hemorrhage skills that are replaced by technology. There's just all these signs of how the system makes people weaker and more dependent on these things. And so right now we're just waiting. Like that's, we're in the phase for the, next big thing, the next big disaster, the next big economic collapse, the next big, war, whatever it is, right? I mean, it's just going to be one epic event after another, and then it's going to be how people react. At what point do people like rise up to a higher level and, embrace the divinity within and, realize why they're here, the true purpose for human life? And maybe that never happens. Like, we'll see. Waiting for the next event is important, but it's also, the more important piece is what are people going to do about it? Like, how are people going to react? Because that's what's important. It isn't the events. It's, what are people, how do people, deal with those events? So I guess we'll start here with Brittany just because that's how it is on my toolbar. Usually she's at the end of it, but we'll start here at the beginning. So I just realized 78 of the people that follow me also follow Brittany. I was getting tired of covering Brittany. I mean, it was funny, Brittany Land, and whatever it was. But whenever I cover something, then I feel like I need to cover it to its conclusion. And that's why people say, you want to, can you look into this? And I'm like, well, not really. I don't want to. Like I don't want to take on things, new things, unless there's some importance to it. And so what's interesting about the Brittany story now is, because here she is doing her dance. So she had these two posts where she seemed to go after her sister. In fact, she did. She actually called her out in the second one. And she was, aggressive, swearing, saying the F word, saying the M and F word, these things. And then she went after her sister again now in a very hostile way. And before that, I don't know, I want to find one of these old ones where she's talking about, she's answering questions. Just bizarre posts. I mean, look, it's like somebody having a midlife crisis, right? Like she's kind of weird, and she was always like very girlish and
Today.
Is this your Easter outfit today?
Yes, this is my Easter suit today.
Is this your Easter outfit today?
Yes, this is my Easter suit today.
Just weird. She had a couple, I don't know if they're still up here. Maybe they're below these snake ones here that's giving the finger. But she had a couple where she answers questions. Maybe this is one.
I'm here to answer all of your questions, and the first main question that you guys have been asking me is basically, when I'm in my living room, do I get dizzy when I'm spinning so much? Yes, I get extremely dizzy. I'm a dancer, so as long as I have a focus point for my head.
Yeah, I don't think she has a focus point for her head. So she would answer questions nobody asked, and her fans, the Free Britney people, would respond. Maybe they've deleted some of the responses here. They would ask her, and they would say, well, those aren't the questions we're asking you. And those were usually the top response, right? That, she'd be answering questions nobody asked in a very girlish way.
As I turn, as long as I keep finding that spot, usually in the end, it's not as bad. The second question that you guys have been asking.
And so then she had this, I'll see if I find it. I think she deleted her post because I looked for it. But I have it on another video where she was in the tub and she had some rose soap. And if I have the clip, I'll put it here. But what she basically was talking like a 6 or 7 year old girl. And then she started to say she was doing this rose project. And the color red is very prominent, right? I talk about color red here. She's with cherries. So I found a video where she actually talks about Project Rose, and then she's going to Rose go after her sister for wearing red and, all these things, right? And so it's very telling. And then she's talking like a little girl in the bathtub with her rose soap. Let me show you some excerpts of that video I posted maybe a year ago or so.
Okay, so a lot of people have been saying that a lot of my posts are not new, but they're old. But just to let you guys know, none of my pictures or posts are more than a month old. Yes, I know I did wear the same top 17 times, but it's for a Project Rose. And you will be seeing way more of Project Rose in the future.
And so then she just goes into, the video goes right into a bunch of handstands. This is like her, her Instagram story, which is inverted, right? She's inverting herself right after talking about Project Rose. And so, inversion is Satanism. So she has this fascination with roses. Remember this post? She sounds like a 7-year-old.
See the pink rose? See how beautiful that is? Watch. It's just soap. That's all it is. It's just soap. It's not really a flower at all. It's just soap. Fooled ya.
So, she was, talking like a little girl, and she talked all the time like a little girl, and even more so in this soap rose thing. And then I covered in that video how Justin Bieber just got a rose tattoo on his neck. And so Rose has, of course we see the rose on the Bachelor show and and it just has all these, the color red and the significance of the rose and the color red. And now Brittany is talking more like a hostile adult going after her sister. And she invokes the rose against her sister. That's coming up right now. And the color red. And her sister wore a red dress in her Instagram post of the other day. It has to do with, all these things, ritualistic abuse, Satanism, and the color red is, associated with these types of things, right? And so her sister came out yesterday. She was responding to Brittany's attacks on her, and she deleted her text now because Brittany's responded to it. But she said something like, God bless or whatever, She said something like taking the high road. And so I found the post from yesterday. This is a video I made yesterday. And she said yesterday, may the peace of the Lord be with you and your spirit, because Brittany was attacking her in a couple Instagram posts. And this was her taking the high road. And she since has deleted that post. And then Brittany addressed it, because Brittany addresses it and, in a sarcastic way, and slams her with her own words. But she was wearing this red outfit with the red shoes. And so Brittany responded today, like she went from being a little girl, let's get back up here, all these weird posts, and then she did another dancing. She did another one of her weird dancing, was weird face things, and, just, spinning around, getting dizzy again. And this is what she said: may the Lord wrap your mean ass up in joy today. And that's directly towards her sister. Now, her sister wasn't the one who put her in the conservatorship. So there's a couple of things here. Brittany went from this, little girl kind of stuff that she's doing, again, with the choker. Like a choker represents so much, right? A slave collar, a, way that suppresses your voice. I mean, here's someone who says that she hasn't been able to speak up for herself. So Brittany has caved to her conservatorship for 13 years and didn't speak out and say anything about it, on Instagram or in any way. Didn't make any attempt to get free. Didn't do anything in terms of trying to get off her medication. I mean, as far as we know, there was no public or legal way of her, legal effort on her part to get out of her conservatorship. She just posted these weird videos and talked like a little girl, helpless little girl, and was very positive. Didn't say anything negative. Didn't go after anybody. Then she comes out and says her father's been taking advantage of her, treating her like a slave, and, doesn't really go after him as a person and verbalize anger and stuff towards him. on her Instagram post or anything, right? And then she goes after her sister, and she says, "May the Lord wrap your mean ass up. Enjoy today. P.S. Red." And then she puts 3 roses, right? And so she had this whole rose thing that she was doing. And then she goes after her sister for wearing red. So Brittany's acknowledging what I've talked about in the past, that red is used in music videos all the time. They bathe the performers in red light at concerts and in music videos. I mean, it's got so many, there's ritualistic implications. I mean, the symbology behind red in terms of the occult and all the things I used to cover here is really, it's off the charts. The hypocrisy is off the charts. But Brittany's acknowledging, right? She says, P.S. Red, 3 roses with a bunch of exclamation point. Psst. This is Bad Guy Part 2, as she's dancing to Bad Guy from Billie Eilish. Same song, new dance. If you don't like it, don't watch it. And then 3 red cherries, right? And then she's got, the Brittany armies there behind her. But she's also calling her sister out publicly. And that's just, that's never good for anybody. Like, we know how these public battles go, that people then go and troll and spam, and their sister has turned off her comments and now has gotten rid of what she said yesterday, right? She, she is responding to Brittany slamming her words about, may she find peace in God here, right? May the peace of the Lord be with you. So this is a Christian statement in your spirit. And Brittany says, may the Lord wrap your mean ass up. Enjoy today. Now, this is, hostile stuff. And, this is like, I talk about how I'm in the editing process right now. And regardless of what's real about this, what's fake, what's posed, what's controlled, all these things. She's going after her sister when her sister's her younger sister. Clearly not the person that put her in the conservatorship or any of these things. We don't know what's gone on between them, but making this public isn't a act of a person that's looking for like healing or whatever it is, right? She's not going after the people that have damaged her and done bad things to her. I mean, the one person she's singling out here, not her mom and dad, this is her younger sister, right? I think it's a younger sister. I missed the whole Brittany. I didn't have a TV during the Brittany years, and I didn't even know about Jamie Lynn Spears till years later. I didn't have the internet, and, during that period of time, I wasn't, I never really followed celebrity stuff, so I didn't know that much about this, but I'm pretty sure that's her younger sister, and that's who she's demonizing. She could attack anybody, but she is, and the wrath of the Brittany army is going to be at her sister and not any of these people that are controlling her or the people who control society. I mean, it is, it's one of these sort of celebrity rap battles, right? Okay, I'm going to get back to the original video here. And so she's, left the post up, but got rid of what she said. And she's turned off all the comments because that people will, go after her. She's got the red shoes and things. And then Brittany's whole weird thing with roses. So Brittany's gone from, I think she's off her meds or, she's not in control of these posts. I mean, all of this is just, I call it the show, right? So it's not like it's real life. I mean, anything that happens in the celebrity world or in politics or any of these things is acted and staged and performed. And, there's handlers and script writers and there's propaganda or publicists is what they call them. There's people who put out the propaganda. And it's happening at a very, a big time. And, this is like, all the things that this represents in terms of, family and, the childhood stars and Disney and all the rest of it, right? And so it's kind of a big story, but like I said, it's just, waiting for the next meteor to hit. Like, watching Brittany do her weird dance while, like, this is a disaster movie. We're waiting for the the disaster to hit, right? And they show you something like this in the first 10 minutes of the the movie, there's going to be like something like Brittany dancing, weird shit going on, and then you're waiting for the dance. You're waiting for the next apocalyptic event. So speaking of apocalyptic events, Willow Smith shaves her head during onstage Whip Your Hair performance. Things are really changing. Now, Brittany's meltdown came with the shaving of the hair. And so this is there. We got the actual concert here. Willow can't sing, right? Lately, I feel everything. And she's really pretentious and, not very talented. And she's not, they use a lot of... Waiting for this to buffer for some reason, but here she is. I did the Ankh, is this what that's called? I did a whole video about this, the Ankh cross and what it represents, and I don't remember. Like, it's just, it's just all whatever it is. But, she's not a good singer.
It's nice. It's better than just generic.
Totally. Yeah, she's right here.
Totally.
This is great.
Cool.
Feel my heart's intention. Hold on, wait a minute. I left my consciousness in the sixth dimension. Left my soul in his vision. Let's go get it.
Now, she just can't sing. Like, she would not have any sort of career if she wasn't famous people's daughter, right? Allegedly, right? I've covered that. She had a video, too, they had out. Like, it was a commercial, and, they could have edited it to make the singing better, and maybe they did. Here she is, bathed in red as well.
It's just smoke and mirrors. They said it's gonna take some time. I think we live in a labyrinth that was created.
When it's just weird lyrics, again, bathed in red here. I'm going to find the hair cutting thing. But that song,
Hypnotized by the lights.
just really unpleasant tones, weird symbology here. And, sounds like a wounded animal. Like, just no, I mean, zero chance of having a singing career. I mean, based in her voice and her musical talent.
And see.
And so this is somebody like, this is like a vanity concert, right? Where she doesn't really have, it isn't like her music would attract people. This is people that are attached to the family or any kind of a fan base she has. She just, she's probably had voice lessons from like really good teachers and just can't do it. She's not, just like Jaden really can't rap and isn't, a good actor, right? And so it's like the whole family has gone into show business and they're not good at it.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
I can see right through, just so you know.
Just painful, right? Like Yoko Ono type, Yoko Ono level singing. And I guess at the end,
Now they don't know what to do. We turn her back and wait for her and to shake them up. Shake them up! Shake them!
some sort of anarchist letters here with the willow and the X and things like this.
All my ladies, if you feel me, go and do it with your hair.
So she's done some sort of punk rock version of Whip Your Hair. And she's playing the guitar. Somebody's shaving her head. Turn this off. It's painful. And just playing the guitar. There's hair coming. That's that dude. What's that guy doing? This guy's really getting into it. Yeah, they're jamming. This is great. And she's doing a Brittany and getting her hair shaved. Look at it. Some ritualistic hair shaving going on here. And, that was just a moment. Plus, she did that. That was a horrible song, that Whip Your Hair, just annoying. And, like, that's her signature song. She waited to close her show with her one sort of hit, and it was such a travesty of celebrity nepotism and like bad music. So speaking of that, suicide rates for the youth have risen dramatically. How can we reduce the risk? Suicide rates for those between the ages of 10 and 24 have gone up by 50%. Suicide rates have doubled. And so this should be talked about because it has everything to do with the way the leaders are handling this, the so-called, whatever's going on now with the pandemic. And just think about this. This is, the medical institutions and everybody else, because it's not just the suicide rates, but it's how kids are feeling, right? Kids are completely bummed and hopeless, and, it's just the way that everything's being rolled out. And it's the fear-based Chicken Little approach from the media and all the rest of it, right? So this is a worldwide issue. You see this people are talking about this on local levels and then on national levels in various countries and things. And so this is veterans have a higher rate of suicides now. And more veterans are dying from suicide than died in the Iraq War. And so, there's higher rates of death by suicide than in, military, whatever it is. And so, you have a, government and media that are handling what we're going through, whatever it is, right? And they're handling it in a fear-based way. And I've talked about that with the truth community, that there's all these, people who do truthers that do it in the same Alex Jones, Chicken Little, the sky's falling way. Instead of saying, it's saying that something's happening. That's what horror movies do. They're saying that something's happening, and it's not happening organically or naturally, or it's somehow evil and goes against the will of the divine, the divine will. But our whole civilization does that, right? And so something that destroys our civilization, something that is getting rid of our system, is actually, something divine, because our system is abomination. Bill Burr savages CNN as un-American piece of shit who want Trump for ratings. Now, he said this on his podcast, and I listened to it, and it was horrible. It was not funny, and he's not insightful. Now Bill Burr has had some great comedic moments, and he's been sort of somebody who flirted with, truther narratives. He at least knew about truther narratives and talked about them in his comedy routine and some of these other things. And he goes after CNN here, but in such a lame way, like just, underperforming. And, it reminded me of, remember when Caitlyn Jenner was, back in 2015, when Caitlyn Jenner was a big story, and comedians started to make fun of Caitlyn. And it was this kind of watershed moment where they got shut down, and Bill Burr was one of the ones talking about it, Jamie Foxx, and they were all shocked that they were told they couldn't talk about it, because comedians were supposed to be able to talk about anything. But it was the beginning of the cancel culture, where comedians were now told what they got to joke about and what they couldn't. And instead of going after Joe Biden has a son. He's a president who has a son who is a crackhead, who got these elaborate jobs, went to strip clubs, smoked crack, banged strippers, didn't remember banging strippers, impregnating a stripper in New York, or maybe D.C., I think it's New York, named Dallas. Her stripper name was Dallas, but she was from Arkansas. She had his baby, right? There's a crack baby out there. Not that the baby's bad, but it's, a result of a crackhead and a stripper coming together. And it's the president's son. And there's, and JoJo is like senile and it's just out there, drooling on himself. And they don't cover it, right? And these, mainstream comedians don't cover it. Like, you don't have to be a truther. Like, I'm talking about non-truthers, right? You don't have to be a truther and cover Joe Biden and his kid. I mean, the media doesn't cover it, and the comedians don't cover it. And it's like hilarious stuff. It's so much material. How could you be ignoring a president who is like a complete, JoJo on every level is not up to the job. he's failing, and he's like, got dementia, and you're just ignoring that, like as a media person and as a comedian. I'm not talking about being a truther. I'm not talking about, the stuff that I cover here. I'm just talking about mainstream people. They're not covering this. They're part of this show, right? And they must be chomping at the bit to go after this guy and, talk about JoJo and his kid and all of it, right? Kamala is another one. I mean, they're just, there's so much material there for comedians and for news media, and they just won't do it. They just can't. They're told, they've been like, their nuts have been clipped. And then what they can talk about is the right wing, and they can talk about Trump, right? Nick Kroll hilariously nails right wing freak out over snowflake shark talk. And so Nick Kroll is, let's talk about his dad first. Nick Kroll's dad is Jules Kroll. And he has Kroll Inc., which Kroll, it sounds like some sort of, this is his business, right? K2 Integrity. And look at this guy. So they talk about him being the private CIA for really rich people and business people, the corporate world. And so he was hired by Harvey Weinstein to do damage control. And the guy is, he is known as the Secret Keeper, the New Yorker magazine. Jules Kroll was dubbed the Secret Keeper because he had all the secrets of the rich people and all these things when they had issues. And, they did a whole piece on him. So I covered this back when he was, a part of the Harvey Weinstein defense. It came out that Harvey Weinstein had hired this other thing called the Black Box that employed ex-Mossad agents and this guy to do damage control years before he was outed as a creep, right? And so this guy's worth $2 billion, it says. It says he's worth $2 billion. So Nick Kroll is a horrible comedian. He looks like an alien. He's got a Netflix show where he, goes through this weird thing with that guy, with John Mulaney, that comedian John Mulaney that recently went into rehab, that had that weird thing on Saturday Night Live with Shirley Temple, and he's, they have this puberty show, which is, not aimed for kids, but kids are going to watch it. It's not funny. It's creepy, and they have a demon with a phallic nose. I mean, it's just an overly creepy show. Not funny, not good. This guy's not talented. But when your dad keeps the secrets for Hollywood celebrities and businesses, and he's worth $2 billion, if you want to be a comedian, you're going to be a comedian, right? And he's a weird-looking guy. And so here he is hosting for Jimmy Kimmel's.
I am your guest host, Nick Kroll. Wow, thank you. Now,
woo, Nick Kroll sucks, woo.
I know what you guys are thinking. This guy,
Nick Kroll sucks, and why are you out there? You're not funny, woo.
Is way too hot to be funny. But that's not the case. The truth is, I am too funny to be hot. I'm really psyched to be here, but I have my own show. It's called Big...
Oh, here he's talking about his cartoon show. But, I mean, just horrible.
Big Mouth. Just nominated for an Emmy, currently streaming on Netflix.
Inappropriate for kids,
but I have to say, it's a lot more fun to be the boss at someone else's show for a day. You can really make people's dreams come true. So I've been upping the budget, ordering e-bikes.
Okay, let's move forward to where he's making jokes that might,
You know what's crazy? Back in 2005, I actually applied to be a writer on this show. And and the feedback that we got back was, these jokes suck ass.
Yeah, because you're not funny. He's just not funny. Like, he doesn't have, people can tell jokes, but there's just a sense of, the funnier people are people who have a lightness inside of them and, enjoy to laugh. I mean, people who, actually find things funny, not some, I'm not sure why this guy, I mean, chose this line of work, but it's just like, all this other stuff to do with nepotism, right? I mean, Willow Smith is another example of this, where your connections in your family create a circumstance where you have a career in show business and you don't deserve it,
This is interesting. You guys see this? Florida congressman and piece of human I'm sorry, alleged piece of human Matt Gaetz was in town.
Just his voice is annoying. It's like anti-laughter, right? It makes you not feel in a good, funny mood. Like, just like everything about him. It's like he's sucking the joy and laughter out of your system as he talks. Like in Star Trek, he'd be like this, blob that is sucking, making people irritated.
This week to raise money in the fight against homelessness. I'm just kidding. He went to a Free Britney rally.
Britney's been abused by the media. She's been abused by a grifter father, and she has been...
Now, Matt Gaetz is a piece of crap, right? Don't like the guy. Just how he is as a person, not about his policies, not about what he believes, not about any of these things. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about people's energy and character and who they are as an essence, right? How they make you feel when you're around them. They just drain you. Like that's the heartfulness system when you're around the master of the system. Somebody who's transmitting loving energy and, this spiritual essence and things. When you're around him, you're like, oh, wow. Like the energy that the masters of the heartfulness system and some of the members, people who do the system, especially if they're, in a good spiritual frame of mind. Somebody who's just come from a gathering doing the heartfulness system, they have this, energy, this like glow, and you feel good when you're around them. There's people in your life like that, right? People in your life probably you've met, like, maybe it's a grandparent or one of your friends, and when you're around them, you're like, oh, wow, I just feel better. It just, they bring out the best in you. And these people in the celebrity culture and politics don't. And Matt Gaetz is one of them. And so, yeah, okay, this is, he's at a Free Britney rally for, political reasons. But is this the biggest story for a comedian when you have a guy who is a crackhead? I mean, Jimmy Kimmel interviewed Hunter Biden and treated him like he was a prince, somebody who got jobs he didn't deserve because of his dad, which is a conflict of interest, access to his father. He used the money to smoke crack and impregnate strippers, and they're covering Matt Gaetz, right? There's a bigger story here, Kroll.
Abused by the American justice system. And so we need to come together and to create a federal cause of action, a federal change in the law that will free Brittany and the millions of Americans who are impacted by a corrupt guardianship system that empowers people to take advantage of the weak.
At first, I was impressed that Matt Gaetz was on the right side of an issue. Then I was bummed out that we were wearing almost the same exact suit. But now I realize that he was only there because he thought he was going to get a free Britney. I just love that the guy who's been accused of sex trafficking a minor is suddenly an advocate for troubled children getting less supervision.
Well, like, we have a legitimate crackhead, regardless of what Matt Gaetz is accused of. And, he probably did it. Like, I don't like the guy. He's just creepy. But he's accused of something. Where Joe Biden is accused of things. And, there's much more evidence. Getting money from China and his son. I mean, his son's laptop. Like, the laptop. I mean, all this information and material. And these guys are going after, Matt Gaetz.
According to the Washington Post, this is interesting.
Is it interesting?
Australians want to rebrand shark attacks as negative encounters. Okay, some Australian officials have started referring to shark attacks with neutral words like incidents and interactions. Look, there's only one way to tackle a snowflake snorri like this with my soon-to-be classic segment, Crow Me a River.
Okay, so this guy, right? I mean, he's just not funny, not likable as well. Like, not wanting to hear this guy's opinions, not wanting to, it's like you meet somebody like this at a party, right? You're like, oh, it's a celebrity. No, it's not. It's a dude with a rich dad who has secrets on everybody. And the guy doesn't have anything. His energy, his consciousness, his opinions, what he looks like. He's repulsive, right? He's a golem. He's a golem up there. This is U.S. accuses China of abetting ransomware attack. The joint announcement largely concerns the discovery and exploitation of a flaw in Microsoft's Exchange software this year, which compromised computer systems around the world. Yeah, because Microsoft sucks, right? You got a guy, Bill Gates, who's now in charge of, he was like the number one, donor, and he's become a medical person even though he's not a doctor. I said this early on. Bill Gates sucked at his real job. Microsoft sucks, right? Like I switched to Apple and I couldn't believe how much better it was. I almost have no issues. The frustration, the technical issues I always had with Microsoft, and that's not about even the hacking. That's just about the computer glitching out all the time and all the issues I had with Microsoft computers. And it just doesn't work as well. And so Microsoft has always sucked. And now the intelligence community is coming out. Hackers working for Chinese intelligence played a role in using ransomware to extort U.S. businesses, the White House said Monday. So now they're going with China and Russia. Now it seems like China and Russia are going to war using hacking systems, which is the new, hacking is going to be the new, the new warfare. You can do so much damage and shut down so much and cripple a country without firing one bullet or one bomb. Hacking can shut everything down now. Everything's computerized. And so now they're saying that China and Russia are out targeting the America. So this is, World War III stuff. And do you have real proof? Like, is this real proof or just, speculative BS, right? We believe this with high confidence. And so what are you going to do about it? Like, these are acts of war. First, are you sure that they did it? And second, are you able to do something in retaliation? And so, there can be big hacking things that happen where, whole state's electrical grid or the whole country's electrical grid gets shut down. Snowden said that America could shut down all the electrical grids of the countries around the world. Like that was, hacking it's a lot easier to break and, dismantle or disable computer software than it is to block it, to stop it from happening and then fix it. And so this is, the real virus of 2021 is going to be computer viruses. And I just found this to be funny. I don't know. Anne Hathaway's ex, Raffaello Folinari, claims she never spoke to him after arrest. And he says, the night Anne phoned me, this is the night he gets arrested, right? And so he said the last time he talked to her, the night Annie phoned me from Los Angeles where she was doing press, we were on the phone for 10 minutes talking about when she might come home. If I remember, Annie's last words were, "I love you forever." And we ended the call. That was 2 a.m. on June 24th. He continued, at 6 a.m., 4 hours later, I was arrested and I never spoke to Annie again. She cut him off. He got arrested and the forever ended, right? And so she loved him forever until he got arrested for fraud.
Feel like this forever, 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 ever, forever, ever.
So I've been making this video on and off this morning, and I went outside to do some work. I was building some shit, not really important. But then I was letting the dogs in, I was letting my puppies in, and I mumbled softly as they walked through the door, "Greetings, brothers and sisters." Greetings, brothers and sisters. And my wife was like, I thought I heard you say. So I think maybe I need some time off. Because usually I would say, "Come on in, puppers," or whatever I'd say to them. Come on, puppers. But I somehow just, losing it a little bit. But I want to talk about, doomsday cannot be avoided. And so I've talked about the economy before and the whole system. And if you really analyze it, there's no solution, a comprehensive solution. People who come up with solutions don't understand the nature of the problem. Like when you have, let's say, water damage. When I was in Chennai and there was 3.5 foot of water that was released from a dam in a river, and it flowed through the entire city. And much of much of Chennai had like open sewers where the sewage would flow in these canals underneath sidewalks and things. And so, and just a lot of trash. And I mean, they don't, in India, there's a lot of trash dumped on the streets. In fact, when the floodwaters, we had it was 3 feet of water, 3.5 feet of water, 4 feet of water in our flat that we were staying in. But behind the building was a lot, and all the places there had been built up. Like they put 12 feet of soil to build the area up because it's part of a floodplain. And so this lot was 12 feet down below where the apartment was. And when the water subsided, these trees that were in this lot had all these like plastic bags and trash in them. Like it looked like trash Christmas trees. And so this water was toxic, right? And it was in the flat. And, it created all whatever it was, the bacteria and, maybe some oils and whatever was in there, right? Whatever kind of, whatever was making up the water. And there was this sludge on the floor. And I, had my kids and I used squeegees to get it out. And, luckily there's no carpet or anything there. It's all tiles. And then these people came in and cleaned it with chemicals, and they did a pretty good job. But there was built-in wood cabinets and things. And, there's going to be mold and mildew there forever. It was just, it'd be hard to really, you needed to rip everything out and really scrub it down. But then what about the foundation? And then there was the water pipes and all those things that were there. Whatever with the septic system, whatever there was in that building. And then they had, water tanks. They would pump the water to the roof, and that was all contaminated. And so, like, when you're in a situation like that, right, or let's say you get, some kind of identity theft or something happens to you like that, and then you got to get the whole, you got to get the full picture of the damage. When you go to the doctor, they say, oh, you got cancer, right? And you go and you get all the details about it. Or, after I had the COVID, I went and got blood work done, and my system was completely effed up. Like it was just, there was 4 or 5 huge problems, systemic problems in my body that now I had to work with and fix because, you have to get the full idea of the problem. And so most people don't have that. And I just wanted to say it in very simple terms. Now, I've said this, and I'm sure you've heard it from other people, and you probably know it yourself. Our currency is a fiat currency, which means it's a promise to pay. The government, used to be there was gold to back the dollar, but now the government promises to back the dollar. There's no longer gold to back the dollar. The government says we promise to make good on the dollar, right? It's a fiat currency. And from that, everything is debt. The currency is debt, but all these other things are debt. And then people put the debt into hard assets. And so, now you have digital currencies, it's not even paper. It's not even, something that you can hold in your hand. Most of the currency in the world, it's like, I don't know, like 5% or 10% of the currency is printed, and the other 90% is digital currency. And so the collective debt is about $1 quadrillion or $2 quadrillion. I mean, America's in $1 quadrillion of debt, so it's about $2 quadrillion. So you understand this. Now, quadrillion, well, a billion is 1,000 million. And so that when someone says, when you hear that somebody's a billionaire, they have $1,000 million. I mean, that's crazy. $1,000 million. But a trillionaire, and there's acknowledged trillionaires and there's hidden trillionaires, have $1,000 billion. And then a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion. And you can't even conceive of a number that big in any kind of context, right? A trillion, a quadrillion, I mean, they're just too big to even conceive of. And so you could never count up to, like I don't know what it would take to count up to 1 trillion seconds or 1 quadrillion seconds. I mean, it's just, not possible for somebody to wrap your mind around $2 quadrillion. And that's how much debt, $2 quadrillion in debt. And the whole planet isn't worth $2 quadrillion at the valuation of the dollar now. You can inflate the dollar, right? You can inflate currency and make it worth less. And you can say, all right, a loaf of bread is $1 billion, I mean, that's happened in the past where people were, they'd have, wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Crazy amounts of, the crazy amount of inflation in a country. And so what's happened because of the debt, the collective debt, is everybody thinks they own something. Like you have a retirement, you think you have $1 million or $2 million or $500,000 or $100,000 towards retirement. And you're like, all right, that's, I got a little chunk of money, whatever it is, get a part-time job in some case, whatever it might be. And you have Social Security that's been promised to you, all these things, right? And so, you think you have promises and you have this much wealth to get to the end of your life. Or you have, couple, $20,000 in the bank or whatever it might be. And then you have the value of other things. You have things that you can sell that might be valuable, a watch, and so when people say, all right, this is your net worth, and everybody has a net worth, right? And, collectively, the net worth has got to shrink because there's not enough value out there. There's not $2 quadrillion worth of value out there. And so everyone has to give up some of what they think they have in terms of their net worth. And you can give it up in different ways. They can devalue the dollar, inflate the dollar, and say your $1 million is now worth $20, right? You thought you had $1 million in the bank, but it's really worth what $20 used to be. Or it's worth what $100,000. They've deflated it by 10 times. And so that's one way that they can, make good on, or at least keep the debt within a conceivable range. And so what you have is that they have promised $2 quadrillion, the powers that be has promised $2 quadrillion throughout the various, peoples of the world, and everyone's got a piece of that. You understand this? And they only have $100 trillion, in value and whatever it is, right? And so they're missing $1,900 trillion. And so they have to take that away from everybody. Like they got to say, all right, we can only give you pennies on the dollar. We can only give you so much value of what you think you own. You understand this? The movie is called Bugsy, I believe. It's Warren Beatty plays Bugsy Siegel. And Bugsy Siegel built the Flamingo Casino, the first casino in Las Vegas. And it was, it was what later became Las Vegas. It was again, this is a movie. I don't know how much of this is true. But he had a crazy girlfriend, and she was looting from him. She was embezzling from him. And he was a gangster and really didn't understand how much it was going to cost to build a casino. So he ended up selling like thousands of percent, right? There was only 100%, but he sold like 1,000 or 2,000% of the casino. And so all these people thought they owned, 10%, but they really owned 5 or 2.5 or whatever it is, right? And so that's like what's happened here. And so they have to go to everybody, the people that run the system, especially in America, but it's global, and say to everybody, guess what? We're taking some of your value. We're taking away some of the things that you own. We're taking your pension or your promised Social Security. And that, $1 million you thought is only worth 50 grand, right? Because of inflation, all these things. And they have to do it in a way that people won't panic, right? And so the people that have the most, the people that hoard wealth, they're not going to want to give up, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, or whatever it is, each person, millions of dollars. They're not going to want to give that up. No one's going to want to give it up, but the rich people in particular. So what they can do is inflate like cryptocurrency and have, a cryptocurrency that's worth so much more than, the dollar being deflated, and then get everybody to convert their money, and then you realize your buying power has been diminished by a, global economic reset by a lot. And, because you're dependent on the system, and at first you might not accept it, but it's better than starving, so you'll go live in a FEMA camp, a Agenda 30, Agenda 21 or 31 home or whatever it is, right? You'll go do it because, you don't have a choice. And, the system is all that you know. But maybe you won't. Maybe you rebel, and then there's another way that the system collapses, because the system is based in perception. And so the wealthy people, they're going to put their money in hard assets. That's what's happening now. Homes and things that are, tangible and real. Commodities. And then when food or whatever it is, right? Precious metals. And so when the currency is deflated, they'll have all these things that have real value, and then they can turn that into future wealth. So this is, their way of trying to ride out this storm, and no one knows how people are going to react, and then there's going to be events that unfold that are destabilizing. So, there's no way to fix any of these things because of the inflated value of the currency. But the bigger part is, which I was saying in the beginning, is that people have become so degraded and disconnected from God, suicidal, or at least, they're just, they want to sabotage themselves, and, they just don't have any, real goals, any real purpose. They're not connected to their souls. They don't understand why they're here. I mean, this is why I talk about the heartfulness meditation, because it's a remedy for that, right? People aren't connected to their real purpose for being here, and their character qualities are really bad. I mean, all of us, we've all been negatively affected by the system. And so when the morality collapsed, when the human beings collapse and become entitled and weak and all these things, selfish and greedy and negative and hateful and narcissistic, then the society collapses as well. And so these are all the things that can't be fixed. People have to become better, and we have to have a better system that actually encourages us to be better people, embrace, the best of us, right? Bring out the best of us instead of pulling out the worst of us. So this system can't be fixed. So a doomsday is inevitable, because people aren't going to willingly just, give up lifestyle and give up wealth and embrace something different and, a little bit harder or a lot harder. They're not going to choose to do that. They're just not going to do that. I've seen it over and over again. People aren't willingly going to, even just spending a little bit of time doing a spiritual practice. I've seen that with the heartfulness system. People come, they try the heartfulness system, they feel the transmission, and they're like, oh, wow, this is wonderful, and they don't stick with it, and they just, they can't do it, and they don't allow it to change them if they do. And so right now, people are, in terms of changing, wholesale changes that need to occur, people aren't going to do it by choice. And so it has to be forced on them by either people that control the system, because they realize that the system is bankrupt and insolvent. So at first they're going to push out some ideas to try to save the system, and it can't be saved because they don't, they've lost control of it all, right? And, eventually it'll be divine intervention, and the system will, crumble into whatever it is, and then there'll be a choice point for human beings to see if they will do the right thing, choose the higher, and, take this unique opportunity to go deeper. I mean, the heartfulness meditation, bring people into a spiritual condition that it usually would take thousands upon thousands of years for them to achieve. And I don't know, we'll see, it's like I'm saying, I'm waiting for these events to unfold and see how people react. And some of these things will be, long after my death and leaving this world, but it'll be interesting. It's a waiting game to see how these events unfold and how people react to these events. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramount, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.